Good evening and welcome to a review from the garage. I haven't done one of these in about 2 years. I just haven't been that inspired, really. I mean, I did really enjoy Oppenheimer, but the last time I did one of these was when John Wick 4 came out, and I was so surprised and pleasantly so by John Wick 4 that I felt inspired to do a review. Well, tonight I feel inspired again. I have just finished watching the first 2 episodes of Daredevil Born Again. Now, when I think of Daredevil Born Again, I think of this. The classic Frank Miller storyline in which Daredevil loses everything and then claws his way back, finds redemption. It's a great story. If you haven't read it, I won't spoil it for you. There will be spoilers for the show, though, and the first 2 episodes at least, as I give some of my thoughts about them. Any background noises, probably just rats or the wind. Please ignore it. Anyway, thought I'd just share. First thing that strikes me is, at last, Foggy has a real haircut. There's a little bit of lawyer talk, a bit of exposition about cops and vigilantes, and then within 5 minutes, all hell breaks loose. Literally. In terms of action, explosion. And within less than 10 minutes, we've said goodbye to a major character from the original Daredevil series, a major character from the comic books. The familiar gang of Karen and Mats and Foggy are irretrievably and irrevocably changed by the events. We see Bullseye probably in a much closer to the comic version, just in terms of his skills and his attitude, maybe not so much of a costume. And it's explosive action. So the first 15 minutes, 5 minutes of sort of quiet and then just boom. It's incredible. I really enjoyed it. I mean, obviously some of the shots with smoke in the background were used to hide the fact that we're looking at stunt doubles. Charlie Cox has aged a little bit since the original Daredevil series. And I guess it was kind of cool, but also kind of a cheat. But I generally liked it. So within the first 13 minutes, we've said goodbye to Foggy. For good. Bullseye himself survives a pretty horrific injury. It's a really explosive start to the series, and I thought done quite well. I was quite surprised by that. Of course, there's a time jump, and I don't really like time jumps that much in films or cinema, TV shows neither. But in this one, it makes sense. They need to sort of, traumatic event. Obviously, there's repercussions, and they reveal them sort of slowly. And of course, the year later also it reintroduces us to the other towering character of the Daredevil series, and that is Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin. So his reappearance was quite skillful, I thought, in terms of how you see his effect on the assembled gangsters. Vanessa's been running his business. She's calling a meeting of the heads of her criminal associates, and just Fisk appearing frightens them off. So he clearly hasn't lost any of his fear factor, but maybe his attitude's different. All right. We see sort of the future of what's happened to Matt Murdock. We see him in practice. I mean, still, going on with lawyer stuff. And we're introduced to Heather Glenn, who was kind of one of his most annoying girlfriends from the comics, and someone he didn't treat that well. He kind of put Heather off many times. She played second fiddle to his obsession with being Daredevil. I mean, the big reveal of the year later is he's given up being Daredevil. I started to get some Dark Knight Rises vibes for a few moments, but thankfully he didn't seem to be wallowing in self-pity. So there is a wonderful scene where Kingpin and Matt Murdock sit down at a diner to basically sense each other out, read each other's intentions. And both actors are really at the top of their game. D'Onofrio hasn't missed a beat from his previous Netflix appearance as Kingpin, not to be confused with his Kingpin appearance in Echo, although that is referenced. It is referenced, as is Spider-Man, the Punisher, and the White Tiger, who is a significant character, as Murdoch finds himself defending White Tiger in his civilian identity, not as his vigilante identity. And of course, we start to see slowly Fisk's mask of benevolence, the man who's going to fix the city. We see it slowly start to fall off with his interactions with the police commissioner, and we're uncertain of what his end game is. Clearly, he's putting the police force under a lot of pressure, but to what end? Really don't know. What can I say sort of to sum things up? Well, I was feeling that the second episode was quite light on action. If that was my criticism, it would be that the second episode, it's not that it drags. This is a character drama, and the characters are well done. The performances are all very solid. There's no performances that are poor in this show. I mean, D'Onofrio and Cox, the two real leads, are really at the top of their game. They're doing really, really well. I'm not going to criticize the script much because we haven't seen enough of it, really. There's some nice links to the past. We have a family member of Ben Urich, who's also a journalist, and there's a very personal connection to Kingpin, for those of you that enjoyed the Netflix series. Yeah, I was thinking episode 2 was light on action until the very last couple of minutes when Matt is confronted by the dirty cops who are responsible for Ayala being on trial for murder, and they basically are going to kill him, and he has to let the devil of Hell's Kitchen out. And it's short, but it is an epic and incredibly satisfying beatdown. So real fans of Daredevil, I guess you get a snippet of a short span of Daredevil doing Daredevil stuff in in episode 1. I mean, I know a fan complaint will be, why are we going to wait a whole bunch of episodes to see Daredevil, to watch a show about Daredevil where he's not being Daredevil? I get it. But a bit of anticipation and build-up is nice. I just hope they don't go too long before he's back in costume and doing the Daredevil thing. Because he makes a vow to himself after Foggy dies he's not going to be a vigilante anymore. And Fisk, of course, cautions him in his new role as mayor that he's not going to tolerate vigilantes. But, who knows where it's all going. But hopefully it won't be too long before you see him swinging around and beating the crap out of people again. But yeah, we see a little bit of Daredevil in the final moments of that episode. And we see Matt's frustration that he cannot escape his violent nature. Something he and Fisk talk about early in the episode, episode 1, sorry, that they cannot escape that violent part of them, that there's a part of them that is inherently violent, and that's something they can never truly get away from. So yeah, cautiously optimistic, and really enjoyed episode 1 and 2. I would recommend it to any of my friends, particularly those who like comic books, who like Daredevil, and who like action series. So yeah. Just last comment, I'm doing these reviews in English. Most stuff on my other channels in Welsh. But yeah, I think that this really deserved to be done in English just because it's an English language program, and that made sense. Anyway, it's enough from me. It's enough from the garage. I hope you're all well. Good night, and if you get a chance, go and enjoy and check out Daredevil episode 1 and 2. No star.